Hey guys, welcome back to the garden. It has been a minute, but there is so much cool stuff in here that I cannot wait to show you. Like the other day, I noticed that my kiwi is starting to put out its first leaves, and my asparagus is starting to come up. But before we get into all the cool things that I'm seeing in the garden right now, I have a very special announcement for you. All right, so if you don't already know, I host a private Discord server through my Patreon, and it is essentially a place where gardeners can come together and chat about how things are going in their garden. They can ask each other and me any questions that they might have, or just, brag about your garden to people who actually care and understand. I know when I was getting started gardening, my friends got really tired of listening to me talk about really fast. Even I noticed my parents got a little bit tired of hearing about it. And that's why I started this YouTube channel. But I also wanted to have a place for all of you who don't have time to just randomly start a YouTube channel about it to chat and connect with about your gardens. And so that is available through my Patreon, but I was really hoping to give people a better opportunity to join. I know some of you aren't exactly familiar with Discord as a platform, and I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to kind of poke their head in the door, see what it's all about, and sort of get a little bit of a trial run with it before you commit to fully joining. So this month, for the month of April, I am offering a special deal to anybody who joins my Patreon in the month of April. You will get 30 days of free access to my Discord group. So you can go in there and check it out. You can get it set up. You can see if it's something that you actually want to be a part of, which I hope that you will. In addition to that, in the month of April, I wanted to do something really special, especially because it's spring. It is a really happy time. So everybody who joins my Patreon in the month of April, they're going to get access to the Discord group, and they're also going to get this lovely limited edition. I think I'm only offering it for this month of April, and it's never going to come up again. This is a holographic sticker. You can see how shiny it is in the sun. This is a remake of my favorite sticker that I've ever made for the channel. It is a cute little sprout, and it says, "This isn't even my final form." And I just think that is the cutest thing in the world. I have one for every single person who is currently a patron. So if you're currently a patron, you're going to be getting one of these too. But also all of you who join in April are going to be able to get you one of these really cute holographic stickers. Finally, just to make sure that it is absolutely worth your while, for the month of April only, if you join my Patreon, you can schedule a 30-minute one-on-one call directly with me. We can do it over video, we can do it over voice, and you can ask me anything you want. I'll help you out with garden questions or just general strategy for your garden, specific questions or problems you may be having. We can go over that in your one-on-one session. And then if you are a patron during just the normal times, so on top of all this cool extra stuff, during normal times, you get access to all of my videos early and ad-free. So if you're sick of watching the YouTube ads and you don't want to pay for YouTube Premium, you can just join my Patreon and see all the videos early with no ads whatsoever. You can also see videos on my Patreon that I don't post anywhere else. Occasionally I'll have a thought or something will happen and I'll just turn on the camera and really casually talk to my patrons about it. I also like to poll my patrons to get ideas for videos and feedback on what I've been doing. So if you have stuff that you want me to see and hear about, being on my Patreon is the way to do that. Again, this special is running through April. You can get yourself a cute holographic sticker, a one-on-one with me, and free access for 30 days to my Discord group. The link to join is down below, and I hope I'll see you there. All right, let's take a look at this very weedy garden. I got a new mic, so hopefully wind will be a problem of the past. Supposedly this mic is great for that. But we're going to go over a lot of the new stuff that is coming up in the garden and some of the stuff that's here that's maybe not supposed to be. If you haven't seen yet, I started a new series on my channel called Weeds with Worth, and the main inspiration for that is the fact that my garden is pretty much entirely covered in weeds at this point. I think if you didn't know what was here, you might not be able to see anything that I'm growing on purpose at all, just a sea of weeds. But I promise we've got some cool stuff going on in here. So over here on the eventual tomato trellis, I have my garlic, and it is actually poking up through the weeds pretty decently. It looks very healthy. I have said this before, garlic is so hard to kill. It is one of the easiest things for new gardeners to grow. It grows through the cold, it grows through the hot, and apparently it also grows through the weeds. So right now garlic is the only thing on this row, and then the second row here down the middle, I don't know, if you maybe concentrate really hard, you can see that there's another row of garlic kind of going up the middle here. And at the front, I also have my potato onions, which those of you who've been following me know that I planted these last fall. It took them forever to come up, and now they're finally here. If you've never heard of a potato onion before, basically it is a perennial onion that will split every year. It'll make smaller onions for me, but they're going to be like maybe a touch starchier. That's why they're called potato onions. But it is a perennial onion that I'm not going to have to necessarily plant from seed every year, which is the main draw of it for me. I want to just be able to dig it up, separate it, and then immediately put one back in the soil and have my harvest. So part of the reason that I haven't dug out these weeds yet, aside from a lot of them being edible and medicinal, is the bees love them. My garden has been covered in honeybees and all other types of bees, basically ever since these things started flowering. So I do technically have a couple of brassicas in this row. You can see that they're the ones with the much bluer leaves than everything else around them. This one with the purple stems is a kohlrabi, and it's actually starting to bulb up just a little bit. I wasn't sure how well it was going to do because it was so stunted when I planted it. But maybe I will get at least a small harvest off of that. This other one over here, I do not remember what type of brassica it is, but it is looking fairly stunted, and I kind of assume it will go to seed before it really produces anything for me. At the back of this row, I have an onion that I forgot about last year. I left it here, and it's been kind of growing like this ever since. It's been a great source of green onions for me when I need it, and it looks like it is actually about to start putting out its flowers. Onions, if you didn't know, are biennial, so 2 years. The first year they make their bulb, and then the second year they use that energy to make their seeds. And so this is mostly going to be a seed producing onion, but I can absolutely keep using the greens, or I could probably dig it up right now if I wanted and use the onions fresh. They're not going to be as big of a bulb as they would be if I harvested during the first year, but there'll still be plenty of edible onion in there. Not too far from that onion here on the back row, if you look really close, if you know what to look for in between all of these weeds, my valerian is coming back. If you remember last year, this is the plant that I mowed over not once, but twice by accident because I didn't see it. And it's still coming back from the roots. So that is a very vivacious plant right there. I'm excited to see how big it grows. I put it here on the edge because I was hoping that it would get kind of big and start crowding out the grass that tries to come from the edge of the garden. Also on this back edge of the garden while we're here, my feverfew has really started coming back. This is looking like a great start to the season. I have already harvested a fair bit off of this, and you can't even tell because it's just so happy with these temperatures. It's been kind of green and lush like this for like almost a month now. This is one of the early ones to come back. And also right over here, I have my lemon balm that is coming back. And you can see in between all the dead twigs and stuff, these really bright green leaves. This is my lemon balm. All right, we are into the third row now at the back. These are my cabbages. I've just started harvesting them, and I actually posted the very first cabbage recipe that I made this year in the Discord group, if you want to check that out. But they're a little bit smaller than I was hoping, but they are really nice heads of cabbage for how small they are. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, as the first cabbage I've ever grown, I'm gonna be really happy with that. Also in the center of this bed, if you remember, is where I had planted some onion starts. And if you don't know they're there, you would never see them, especially because the wild onions are so dang big. But this right here, this is an onion start that I put there on purpose. And this one is an onion start that I put there on purpose. And then everything around it is wild onion. They're so hard to get rid of, but they are edible. Also back here, I have one singular fava bean plant. I had really hoped to have a lot. I planted a lot of seeds, but this is the only plant that survived. It made it through the winter great. I mean, you can see kind of the parts that got damaged during the cold, but it has since bounced back, and these flowers actually look like they've been pollinated. So I can probably expect to get a few beans here very soon. Obviously, since I just have the one plant, it's not necessarily going to be a massive harvest. I will be trying again next year, see if I can maybe put in a little bit more effort to sprout them ahead of time and maybe put out starts instead of planting seeds, because I think something was coming through and just eating my little baby seedlings as soon as they sprouted. Coming into the arches now, I do have more onion starts on either side of the trellises that, again, they're hard to see because of all the weeds, but I'm hoping that pretty soon here they take off and shoot up and get tall like they're supposed to, and then they'll outcompete these weeds pretty quick. This volunteer brassica that's been here all winter, I finally figured out what it is, and I was right the whole time. It was broccoli. And then I missed my window to harvest it, and now it's going to seed. Isn't that just how it goes? So I'm gonna have some beautiful little brassica flowers here. I decided I would just leave it, A, because that's the easiest thing to do, and B, they say that flowering brassicas deter pests. So I don't know if that's true, but I figure it really can't hurt. I find myself being very careful walking around the garden because these violets are everywhere. I have never enjoyed having a weed in my garden so much. This last row here next to the trees, there's not just a ton going on. We do have the irises that are up on the hill of the swale here. Those look like they're getting ready to flower. And then I also have some onions kind of in a row beneath them. Once again, you can't really tell because the weeds are very, very overgrown. But, you know, you can come over here and you can see these poking up right here. And if we walk all the way to the end of the row, you can see what I was working on yesterday, which is I actually dug up all the grass that got in here. It was all big tufts like this, and I still do have to kind of remove the stuff that's here along the edge. But I mean, it was really encroaching on the rest of the garden here. And so I got it dug up, and I also planted a couple new blueberry bushes. There's one right there and one right there. And this is a blueberry bush that has been here for a year now, and it's looking actually super healthy. This is one of the two that I thought I killed because I forgot to water it. And it's coming back, it's surviving. So I don't know, I got two more on a whim when I was at the store, and they were on sale, and I was like, oh, I'll just get a couple more. Not to mention, I might have a couple more in the mail already that I definitely had ordered when I had bought these. But anyways, they're gonna go over there in the berry patch. This is separate, and this one needed a buddy anyway. So now that this area is dug up, I'm actually, maybe today or tomorrow, gonna go ahead and put in potatoes here. It's slightly late for me to be putting in potatoes, but that doesn't super matter. It's still absolutely fine. Okay, so now some of the more fun stuff. It's always nerve-wracking to figure out whether or not your perennials are gonna come back from the dead, because that's what they look dead all winter long. But my fragrant sumac appears to be a-okay, it is starting to put on little leaves at last. So I'm very excited about that. We're also starting to see the feverfew in my herb bed come back. Unfortunately, it looks like the oregano will not be coming back this year, but that's okay. I bought a new plant already. It's gonna get replaced. And the thyme is actually greening up really nicely. This is one of the best times of year for me to be harvesting thyme because it's putting on all this new growth, but it hasn't yet gone to flower yet. In this much bigger raised bed, I technically have my marshmallow here. This is one of the ones that I have not seen come back yet, and I'm a little worried about it because the one that's in the ground has definitely already come back. So if this one doesn't, I still have one, and that's gonna be okay. But you know what did come back with a vengeance is the yarrow. This plant, I believe when people say that it is very hardy. I mean, if you look real close, you can even see it's putting up shoots that are coming up through this very thick wood chunky mulch. Here's another little baby that it put out. Here's a baby that it put out. This was a really small plant when I put it in, and it is doing excellent. And it is right next to my asparagus, which is starting to come up. I have been toying with the idea of harvesting it this year. Right now I'm gonna go with no. You're supposed to wait until your asparagus is bigger than a pencil before you harvest it. And right now we are right on the edge. So some of these smaller ones, I don't think I'm gonna harvest. Although I did just peek and see this one. This is a much bigger looking stalk. We'll see how big that one gets as it comes out, but maybe I'll harvest like one or two little pieces of asparagus off of this plant this year. My tiered raised bed is coming back to life as well. The garlic chives pretty much had fully died back to ground level, and they've since come back and they look very healthy. A couple of onions that I did not know were here came up, and my silver hi-ho thyme is trying to decide whether or not it would like to be variegated or not. I'm not sure which one it's going to decide on, or if it's just going to continue to be a mix, but either way, it's gorgeous. I'm also down to my last carrots here, and everything that you see here is actually going to stay and make seeds for me. These are my purple carrots. I think they're like either purple dragon or cosmic purple or something like that. But you can see they got pretty big, and the orange ones that I had in here only did okay. So since these ones were doing super well, I'm going to go ahead and let these ones be the ones that go to seed and be the variety that I try to perpetuate into next year. I'm also seeing my Greek oregano coming back. This is one of those plants that's like impossible to kill, so I was never really that worried about it. And then my lemon thyme. It looks mostly dead until you realize that the edges over here are actually green. I am not sure what I'm going to do about that yet. I am toying with the idea of maybe taking it out. It's really struggled the last couple of years that I've had it, and I'm just kind of starting to think that it's not quite well adapted to this area enough. This smaller raised bed here, this is where my sunchokes are going to come back whenever they decide to do that. I'm not fully sure on the timeline, but I am not worried about them because people talk all the time about how you like literally can't get rid of them. So these will be back soon. This is one of the two raised beds that really suffered from the bad soil that I had accidentally gotten. You can see there's mostly weeds in here. The only two things that are left that I actually planted are these two right here. And you know, they are small and kind of barely hanging on. I think this is a Brussels sprout and this is a kohlrabi. I could like pull some of these leaves for salads, but that's about all I can do with these guys. This bed is actually going to reset very soon. You can see I've got some stuff for that. And this is going to be where I plant pumpkins this year. I am also going to reset this raised bed. Currently it has some very old beets and some carrots in here. I actually could still pull these carrots, I bet, but they are getting to the point where they're probably going to be a little tough. Same with the beets. They're technically alive and they might actually go to seed for me which would be kind of nice, but the roots there that are left, they're definitely not edible. So I'm gonna reset this and I'm gonna put sweet potatoes in here. Since those actually did really well in that bed this past summer, they did not seem to be affected by the bad soil. So I'm gonna put sweet potatoes in here after I amend it and hopefully give it another year to kind of clear out whatever was going on. And sweet potatoes, in the meantime, they'll be fine. Now, if you're wondering where those other two blueberry bushes are gonna go, they're actually gonna replace these two right here. That's originally why I bought them. I had gotten these two plants from the store on clearance. They were looking sad and they just did not make it. So these two are gonna get replaced with the same variety that I have over here, which is the only variety out of all the blueberries that I've had that actually does super well. Look at the number of flowers that this plant has put on. It's kind of crazy. It is booming out here. It's so happy. Like, look at all these leaves. So I got two more of this same exact variety, and hopefully eventually we will have a thriving blueberry patch. You can see this other variety here. This is one of the ones that I originally got, and it's certainly not dead. It is putting on leaves, but it's not at this level. I'm also finally starting to see some of the strawberries coming back, poking through the mulch. Unfortunately, I have dug through the mulch all through here several times now, and it does not look like any strawberries in this area are going to be coming back. And that's a little bit sad, but essentially what happened last year is we went through a drought. It got really dry and really hot, and I kept not watering because I thought surely it's gonna rain any day now, and then it didn't, and a lot of my strawberry plants got pretty crispy, and I think that's probably what happened to the vast majority of them. The good news is they will repopulate so fast. I went from one strawberry plant to like 50 in 2 years, so I'm not that worried, although I did hit up a plant sale and I got more strawberry plants, so we are gonna have more strawberries in here. Aside from the ones that I already have. But even if I didn't have those, this patch would still repopulate itself just fine. We are getting quite close to blackberry season. You can see my very first blackberry flowers coming on right there. And then once you start looking, you start seeing little buds for the flowers everywhere you look. So blackberries coming in very soon. The raspberries are also starting to come back. You can see a lot of this green right in here. This is raspberry putting on new growth, and we do have little buds in there as well. So blackberry, raspberry season is well on its way. This is also the time of year where I'm going to start coming through and pruning back my raspberry canes. I generally wait until I can start seeing the new growth, because then I can be sure, okay, which of these are actually dead 2-year-old stems and which of these are the 1-year-old stems that are still going to fruit for me. A very unfortunate sight though here with the raspberries. My rosemary bush appears to be fully toast. I still am not entirely sure what happened to it, but everywhere I look, its foliage is just like fully dead and dry. So I did get a new rosemary plant for this year, and I'll probably either cut this one down and put the new one there or choose somewhere else to put it. I'm not sure yet. I do kind of think it's been a little bit crowded here in with the raspberries, but I haven't made the decision yet. Something I'm still waiting on to see if it will come back are my figs. I am a little bit concerned because if you look, you can see this places where there were nice healthy looking buds. That looks kind of black and dead to me. This is a type of fig that should easily survive the winters here, and it has done so in a pot above ground before, so I'm not really sure why it would be struggling now. I'm kind of hoping that even if these sticks are dead, that it still comes back from the roots, but I am mildly concerned. You might see me buying a few more figs this year just in case. And then in this area up in my front yard, I do have another fig here. It also has that same like kind of black look to its buds. I am not fully sure what's going on with that, but hopefully there is some new growth. I almost got excited for a second when I saw that, but I think that's just grass. Over here, I'm also still waiting on my elderberry to come back. I am currently not too concerned about that. I think elderberry tends to be very aggressive once it gets established. And actually, now that I look, this always happens when I'm on camera with you guys. I have to contradict myself immediately. I think this is actually elderberry coming back right next to my grass. So we'll have to wait and see if that gets a little bit bigger. I'm not fully adept at identifying this one yet, but that kind of looks like elderberry to me. Oh, and I can't forget my yearly PSA. If you didn't know, hostas are edible, specifically the shoots. And so you want to catch them in this stage, actually maybe a little bit before this stage, yeah, more like this, when they're just curled up. You can pick them and eat them like asparagus, and then you can let them grow and become your nice, big, beautiful hostas. I also can't forget to show you guys all the cool mint that I got while I was visiting my friend in Alabama. I went to a plant store, and of course I came away with one of every type of mint they had, even though I probably don't need it. But we've got strawberry mint, apple mint, orange mint, chocolate mint, and peppermint, I think, is that last one on the end. Chocolate mint is my #1 favorite mint. The rest of these, I'm not fully sure if I'll use. They're kind of a novelty, but chocolate mint, oh, if you can only have one mint in your garden, chocolate mint is the best. All right, so remember, if you want to check out the Patreon special that I have running for the month of April 2025 only, that link is in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I wish you happy gardening.